Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking some fascinating work by Dr. Susan Edwards. We're going to kick things off with her core essay, Transformations, Acknowledging, Assessing, and Achieving Change, to really wrap our heads around the massive shifts shaping our world right now. Then, we'll dive straight into her Theme 7 essay, exploring the deeply human powers of connection that honestly ground us through it all. Because let's face it, we live in an era where change is literally the only constant, and figuring out how to navigate all this transformation, it's absolutely crucial.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at a world of constant change. 2, the biology of connection. 3, personal and virtual bonds. 4, connecting across global spheres. And finally, number 5, guarding our future connections. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. A world of constant change, where we acknowledge the macro shifts happening all around us. For the times, they are changing. You know, when Bob Dylan sang that back in 1963, he was documenting the massive social shifts of his era. And documenting those shifts, that's a huge part of the human experience. Dylan used these concise, hypnotic verses to assess the transformations of the 50s and 60s. Well, fast forward over 55 years, and we are still living in some wildly interesting, changing times. But today, the shifts we're seeing, they span across some incredibly diverse and, frankly, surprising aspects of our modern world. We are literally living in a world of incredible flux. Dr. Edwards points out 3 major arenas here. First up, nature. Think about photographer Joel Sartori. He spent 12 years traveling the globe just to photograph 7,000 rare animal species, all to get us to actually care about protecting biodiversity. Then there's the economy. We are dealing with staggering weather disaster costs. We're talking an estimated $150 to $200 billion just from Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria, right alongside this massive corporate consolidation. And then there's data. Get this. We're in a digital revolution where a Wisconsin-based company is actively embedding biochips into their employees instead of using standard company badges. I mean, it sounds totally sci-fi, but it is happening right now. At the exact same time, global institutions are grappling with hacked medical records and election data. To really grasp the sheer scale of these systemic economic shifts, let's just look at one number, $4.2 billion. Let that sink in. Back in 2017, the major U.S. airlines consolidated from 10 carriers down to just 4. Those 4 ended up controlling 83% of the market. And the fees they collected from us travelers, for things like checking a bag or getting an inch of extra legroom, those fees skyrocketed from $543 million in 2007 to an astonishing $4.2 billion in less than a decade. It really forces us to pause and ask, do these massive global corporations transform our economies in ways that actually serve our contemporary needs? Socially speaking, we're seeing these transformations play out through really high-profile and often super polarizing dialogues. Take Colin Kaepernick's protests during the national anthem, for example. On one hand, you have Kaepernick using his massive NFL platform to fight global oppression and raise awareness against police brutality. But conversely, detractors viewed the exact same gesture as deeply disrespectful to the flag and the military. This deep societal divide brings up a really critical question. How in the world do we achieve change if we can't even listen to one another about our divergent worldviews? And that kind of friction, it spills right over into the digital realm. Between the push for individuals owning and sharing their own medical data, the manipulation of elections by foreign bots, and yeah, there's evidence of hackers interfering in US, French, and German elections, plus our rapidly disappearing privacy, we really have to ask the profound question once posed by Chuck Todd. Can democracy survive the digital revolution? Because right now, technology is transforming society way, way faster than we can figure out the ethics to safeguard it. Section 2. The biology of connection and navigating change. Okay, so with all this massive systemic upheaval happening around us, everything from extreme weather to digital hacking, how do we actually navigate these changes as individuals? Well, this brings us right to the core of Dr. Edwards' Theme 7 essay, Powers of Connection. We have to ask, how is our most fundamental tool for resilience, human connection, evolving in this modern age? It's completely ubiquitous, yet we usually only notice how connected we are when that connection suddenly goes missing. It actually all ties right back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We are biologically, physiologically, and, let's be honest, increasingly electronically wired for social connection. As Maslow pointed out years ago, once our basic physiological needs like food, water, shelter are met, every single level beyond that fundamentally requires social connection to achieve. When those wires get crossed or aren't connected at all, the fallout is severe. We're talking everything from unfulfilled human potential to actual physical and psychological illness.
Connection is so foundational to what it means to be human that it's being studied across practically every academic discipline you can think of. Biologists, chemists, and physicists, they're researching it down on the biochemical and atomic levels. Psychologists and sociologists are looking at the personal and group dynamics. Economists and political scientists are tracking its impact on global markets and politics. And, of course, writers, artists, and theologians are exploring the deep spiritual and human experience of it all. Basically, everyone is trying to figure out how connection binds our transforming world together.
Section 3. Personal and virtual bonds. The micro shift.
Zooming into the personal domain, we really need to weigh the differences in exactly how we're making these connections now. Think about it. Is a friendship profoundly different when it's actively, intentionally facilitated through a digital platform like Meetup.com, for instance, rather than just passively waiting for a chance, face-to-face introduction in the real world? We are experiencing a massive shift from passive proximity to intentional digital matching.
And that word right there, intentionality, is absolutely key. The poet and essayist Susan Sontag hit the nail on the head when she implored, "Attention is vitality. It connects you with others. It makes you eager. Stay eager." You see, whether our connections are digital or physical, the crucial takeaway here is that paying attention and acting with intention is the ultimate connector. Staying eager literally transforms engaged people, and by extension, the world around them. Think about the last time someone truly, deeply paid attention to you. That kind of intentionality is what builds real, unbreakable bonds. Section 4. Connecting across global spheres. Expanding the network. Now, let's see what happens when we take these evolving personal connections and scale them right back up to the global level. So, looking way beyond just our personal friendships, we are seeing some immense transformations. I mean, look at how our networks are expanding. Businesses are fully embracing telecommuting and virtual teams, which is fundamentally altering what a workplace even means. Over in education, distance learning is creating entirely new social impacts for students who are learning from thousands of miles away. And globally, international relations are being fostered and heavily affected as global exchange programs continue to grow at record speeds. But to be fair, we also have to neutrally examine the other side of the coin. What happens when these vital connections are debased, repressed, or just entirely cut off? In places like the Middle East, long-standing violent conflicts heavily transform and disrupt societal connections. Over in the political sphere, the reality and even just the perception of fake news and deceitful manipulations heavily exploit our social networks. And in China, government monitoring of phone and internet use really forces us to ask, what kinds of authentic, unmonitored connections can even develop in that sort of climate? Section 5. Guarding our future connections and looking ahead. Now, if thriving requires authentic connection, how do we protect this vital network in an increasingly distracted world? Well, the author Thomas Friedman offers an incredibly optimistic lens on this whole thing. He argues that our modern tools for connection are actually leveling the global playing field in unprecedented, highly accessible ways. He points out that more people in more places can now compete, connect, and collaborate with equal power and equal tools than at any other point in human history. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought from the source material to chew on today. As our tools equalize and technology bridges the geographic divide, to what extent can an even global playing field actually help us achieve greater powers of connection? In an ever-changing world filled with shifting economies, digitized workplaces, and global crises, how will you use these equalizing tools to foster deeper, more authentic connections? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, stay eager out there.